slide hammer, take the seal off. Once again, I'll give it a quick wipe. And on this seal there will be a part number again. So hopefully you can focus on that and see part numbers. So we have 2 seals to replace on this side, and when I order them, I'll order 4, 2 of each, because I'm going to need them for the other side. I also don't have any Varsol to clean these parts, so that's something else I have to get. But before I Varsol the hub, I do a couple things. I'll take a fresh rag to the axle here, and I'll just give it a wipe. I'll just get all the impurities and crap off of it. It gives me a chance to look. And what are you looking for? You're looking for signs that the bearing may have spun here or spun here. You're also looking here. This is where the seal rides, right here. And you're looking for a little lip where the seal surface would run. If you can feel something there, your seal is going to prematurely wear out. So you would have to do something about that. In some cases when that's gone, when it's like that, you'll get a thing called a speedy sleeve, which is a very thin tin sleeve that will slide on there and give a new surface. It's an interference fit that stays on, and they work fairly well. Another thing some people have done is they won't put the seal quite in the same location, and the way you do that is by not hammering it all the way in. I don't agree with doing it that way, but I have seen it done in a pinch like that. One of the other things I do is in here, you can see right down in this area, there's a whole pile of grease, and I'm going to stick my finger in and scoop some of it out. Hopefully you can see that where I'm scooping, and you can see it just peeling out. Okay, that's what the color the grease was. So you can see the discolored part and the good part. See the difference? So all I do is I'll take a rag, and I'm old school. I don't wear gloves, and I probably should. You know, there's never too late to start. But and I haven't been working in safety. I know that I should be using gloves here, but what I do is I work my way around and just dig out all the grease that I can with my finger into one of the old rags that I had here. And this isn't all I do. I will clean this out with Varsol, but no use dipping this in Varsol when there's that much grease involved. And the idea is that this grease will get warm as you're driving and will distribute itself throughout. And that's, I think, where the opinions of the mechanics differ with preload. Most bearings have what they call preload, and what that is it's tightened a little bit beyond tight. So you basically finger tight and then just a slight tweak on it. And there will be a torque specification in the manual for this. And years of work, you kind of get a feel for it, and you don't bother with torque wrenches when you're doing these because you do them so often. But it's like I say, it's different opinions. Some of the guys say there shouldn't be any, allows for the bearing to expand. Some of the guys will say, well, it has to have some preload to stop the bearing from being sloppy. And I've only seen one or two cases, when you look at the manuals, where it didn't want preload. In all the other cases, they usually want preload. So I've always been one to preload by feel. Okay, now that I got that wiped out, my finger, I'll take usually one of the other rags and just give it a wipe with that. And you want to be careful because the hub is cast iron and the edges are machined where it's machined here, so you'll get sharp edges. And this one has this little tin seal protector, and that's going to be like a razor. So you always want to watch for that. So I gave that a wipe. Turn it around. Give a little wipe from this side with a slightly cleaner section of the rag. And one of the things I can do now, even though I haven't washed them down, I can inspect the cup or the race. That's this part here that the bearing rides on. And you're looking for pitting or galling, as it's called, where you'll see a bunch of little pits. You're looking for heavy discoloration, bluish discoloration, which can be from excess heat. Or if you see a bunch of marks that look like the bearings have left, like marks replicating the bearing, it's called brittling. The bearings were kind of getting hammered. So you check that out. Give it a quick wipe here. While I'm at it, I had looked at the brakes. Brakes are going to be good for a couple years yet. Check for brittling on this one, and brittling and pitting, and on this one here, and those both look good. Those surfaces are, I also check on the bearing here. When I clean them, it'll be easier to see, but you can quite often see pitting on these as well if the bearings are starting to fail. Now, if these have to be replaced, they're an interference fit in there. And what they do, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little space right here in the casting. That little space in the casting here will have one on the opposite side over here. Those are made so if you have to tap that out, you can get at it from the back side with a punch. There and over there. So you can see that little spot there. And those are made so you can get at them. And there's one for the inner bearing here as well. So I'm checking here. I'm looking for cracking. I'm looking for grooving. I'm looking for rust buildup. Everything looks good on this one. And then here again, on the brakes, checking the shoes for cracking and making sure everything moves okay. And I, kind of check. And then there's one check that you do here for the wheel cylinders. Inside of here is brake fluid, and there's a little seal inside, like a piston. There's a rubber seal, and then there'll be a piston. Oh, cat content. This is a stray that keeps driving my dogs crazy. Doesn't seem too scared of me, does it? Or too worried about the dogs in the yard. You know, cat, you're annoying as hell. Because you're driving my dogs crazy. Why don't you go and play in your own yard? Eh? Why don't you go play in your own yard? Meow, meow, meow. Okay, so there's the cat content for Darren and I guess Milo and whoever else has cats. Rick Fix. There's the gratuitous cat content. Getting back to the wheel cylinder here. Inside here there will be two seals, one on each side here. The fluid will come into the center from the brake line. And there will be a piston on each side on the outside of the two seals. So when the brake fluid comes out, it pushes the seals out, which push the pistons out, which then push these rods. These are rubber seals that help keep dirt and crap out. But if the little cup inside here, in between the pistons, starts to leak, you'll get brake fluid leaking past, and it can come out and contaminate your brake lines. So what you do when you have the wheels off is you actually pull this boot back a little bit. Oh, and you see that? That, my friends, is brake fluid. That tells me that seal is failing. Okay, keeps flipping back is what it's doing. Okay, now this side is starting. Now the brakes were working fine, because that's not a big enough leak to stop them from working. However, each time you apply brake pressure, a little bit will seep past, and eventually it'll leak out of here, and it'll drip down, and eventually drip down onto where the drum is riding, and then it'll get distributed all the way around and contaminate the brake linings. And when that happens, you'll get brake lockup. The brakes, you'll touch the brakes and the wheel will lock up, which is not what you want. So that tells me I need a wheel cylinder for this side. And because of the size of the truck or the camper, and the fact that I've got the wheel off on this side and I'm going to be doing the other side, I'm going to replace both. It's just easier, and that can't be much more than probably a $30 part maybe. So it'll be well worth doing it. Another thing I do when I'm under the vehicle like this, any vehicle, while I'm at it, I do a quick visual check of the springs, the spring mounts, and I'm looking for cracks, broken leaf springs. I'm looking for the bushings getting hammered out. And I also give a quick visual check to body mounts and the frame. Just what you can see, you know, just a little bit of a check over. And because of the size of this vehicle, I leave the jack under it, but I also do have, most of the weight is on the jack stand. So there you have it. My bearing check and repack, minor detail. Anyway, it's getting long. I'm going to edit it down. I'm up to about 46 minutes. I won't bother doing the other side, showing you the other side, but when I have the parts, I'll take you through changing the wheel cylinder, putting everything back together, repacking the wheel bearings, replacing the seals, and bleeding the brake system. So take it easy. Have a good one.